In the summer of 1944, after the intense battles in Normandy had ended and the fields lay scorched, one name started making waves in the U.S. Army: Lafayette G. Poole. Soldiers called him all kinds of names: War Daddy, the American Panzer, even a one-man armored division. But to the men who fought beside him, he was just a guy who always found a way to get them home safely. Poole's story didn't start in Europe. He grew up in the quiet town of Odom, Texas, born on July 23, 1919. He was a tall, strong kid who liked machines, speed, and friendly competition. He didn't go looking for fights, but he didn't back down from one either. That quiet strength would become one of his defining traits. In 1941, like many young Americans, Poole joined the Army. It was his chance to leave Texas and take on something bigger. He became part of the 3rd Armored Division, nicknamed Spearhead, a unit that would later play a major role in the European campaign. He trained at Fort Polk in Louisiana, learning everything there was to know about tank warfare: how to move as one unit, fire with precision, and survive the chaos of battle. From the beginning, Poole had a natural talent for it. He studied every move, every mistake, always looking to improve. His leaders saw he wasn't just another soldier. He was built to lead. By the time he left for England in late 1943, he already had the core of a legendary crew: Gunner Wilbur Jr. Richards, driver Willis Oler, assistant driver Delbert Buggs, and gunner Wesley Baby Harris. They weren't just a team, they were a family. Poole didn't just give orders. He looked out for his men, pushed them to be better, and earned their complete trust. After D-Day in the summer of 1944, Poole and his crew landed in Normandy. Their tank, a Sherman they named in the mood, quickly became as well known as Poole himself. The fighting was brutal. Thick hedgerows, hidden ambushes, and fortified towns made every mission risky. But Poole never seemed shaken. He was known for hitting hard and fast, always taking the lead when the action got heavy. His crew followed his commands without hesitation, like a single machine. Their first major clash was near the town of Colombiers. Poole's tank led an assault that smashed through German defenses. In just 15 minutes, they knocked out several enemy positions and vehicles. That was just the beginning. Over the next 83 days, from France to Belgium, Poole's tank crew racked up an unbelievable record. They destroyed or captured over 250 armored vehicles and self-propelled guns, took out 12 tanks, and captured close to 1,000 enemy soldiers. No other Allied tank commander matched those numbers. But to Poole, the stats didn't matter. What he cared about was his crew's safety. Despite countless battles, not one of his men was lost to enemy fire. That was no accident. His leadership style was bold but smart. He attacked fast to keep the enemy off balance, always thinking several steps ahead. When facing strong defenses, he'd outflank them. When walking into a trap, he'd draw enemy fire and strike back with deadly accuracy. His timing was legendary. Wesley Harris, his gunner, later said that Poole often called out targets before anyone else saw them. He just knew, Harris said. He could feel it. Through July and August 1944, and the mood became a familiar sight at the front. Word about Poole spread quickly, first through his division, then across the entire U.S. Army in Europe. He became known as the top tank ace on the Western Front. It wasn't a title he asked for, but it stuck. But war doesn't slow down for anyone. In August, Poole's first Sherman tank was hit by an 88mm gun near St. Denis-le-Gast. Thankfully, his crew made it out without a scratch. A few days later, they were back at it in a new tank, which they also named in the mood. When that one was destroyed too, they didn't stop. They just climbed into in the mood 3. Each time, it was the same routine: repaint the name, check everything worked, and head right back into fight. They didn't talk about luck or fear, just focus on the mission. By early September 1944, Poole had been in nonstop action since Normandy. The 3rd Armored Division was deep into Belgium, pushing the German army back toward their own border. Allied commanders thought the enemy was falling apart. But in reality, German forces were regrouping and getting ready to hit back. On September 19th, near the village of Munsterbusch, Poole was leading a column of tanks down a narrow road. It was supposed to be a simple pursuit. Dust filled the air. People waved from their windows as the Shermans rolled through. Then, out of nowhere, a German Panther tank opened fire from a hidden position. The first shot hit the lead tank. The second hit Poole's Sherman and set off the ammo rack. The blast threw him out of the turret. His right leg was crushed. The rest of his crew survived, but Poole lay wounded in the road. That was the end of his time in combat. He was flown to England, then back to the U.S., where doctors amputated his leg below the knee. For someone who had always lived for speed and movement, it was a devastating injury, but Poole didn't let it define him. During recovery, he struggled with dreams of war. He missed the sound of engines, the smell of fuel, the energy of battle, and the bond with his crew. Still, he knew the fight was behind him now, and his purpose had changed. After the war, Poole tried returning to regular life. He ran a gas station for a while, but the military still called to him. He re-enlisted, this time not as a frontline soldier, but as a trainer, even with a prosthetic leg. He got back in tanks, teaching new recruits how to survive and fight smart. He passed on the same skills that kept his team alive. Poole never bragged about what he did in the war. If people asked, he'd credit his team his faith and some good luck. For him, war wasn't about being a hero. It was about doing your job and making sure your people got home. Over the years, Poole's reputation only grew. His tactics were studied in military training. His story inspired books, documentaries, and even scenes in war movies. People who met him later said he was humble, focused, and truly proud of his service. He didn't dwell on what he had lost, only on what he and his crew had achieved together. Lafayette G. Poole passed away on May 30th, 1991, at age 71. He was laid to rest in Texas, surrounded by family, friends, and fellow veterans. They didn't remember him as just a legend. They remembered him as a man who led with courage and heart. Today, he's recognized as one of the greatest American tank commanders of World War II. In just 83 days of combat, he accomplished what most never could, and he did it without losing a single man under his command. His legacy is more than victories and numbers. It's about loyalty, leadership, and the kind of trust that only forms in battle. To this day, historians point to Poole's story as something more than just a war record. It's a reminder of the human strength behind the machine, a man who fought not for medals, but for the safety of his crew. Through guts, instinct, and loyalty, Lafayette wore daddy. Poole became a lasting symbol of American bravery, tough, driven, and never forgotten. Lafayette G. Poole's story isn't just about war machines or battlefield victories. It's about what leadership, loyalty, and courage really look like when everything is on the line. In just under 3 months of combat, he did what others might consider impossible. Not just with the number of enemy vehicles destroyed or prisoners taken, but in the way he protected and inspired his crew every step of the way. That's what made him different. That's why his name still carries weight. He wasn't a man chasing fame or medals. He never claimed to be a hero. He showed up, did his job with everything he had, and put his team before himself. And that's exactly what made him one of the most respected tank commanders in U.S. military history. His record still stands as one of the most impressive in World War II, but it's the human side of the story that matters most. The decisions he made under fire, the instinct that kept his men alive, and the humility he carried for the rest of his life. Even after losing a leg and leaving the battlefield behind, Poole never quit. He returned to serve again, not with weapons, but with wisdom. He trained the next generation of soldiers with the same discipline and purpose that carried him through war. He proved that strength doesn't end when the battle does. Sometimes it just takes a new form. Lafayette Poole's legacy lives on not just in books or military history classes, but in the values he stood for: grit, integrity, brotherhood. He showed the world that true leadership means taking responsibility when things go wrong, staying calm under pressure, and never leaving your people behind. So when we remember the name War Daddy, it's not just about tanks rumbling across Europe or explosive victories on the battlefield. It's about a man who led with purpose, fought with heart, and never forgot what mattered most: his crew. In the end, Poole's story reminds us that real strength isn't loud or flashy. It's steady, it's focused, and when the dust settles, it's the kind of strength that leaves a legacy not in destruction, but in the lives you protect, the people you lead, and the example you set. Lafayette Poole didn't just fight in history. He became part of it. His story continues to inspire soldiers, historians, and everyday people who see in him a model of quiet determination and relentless focus. He showed that even in the most chaotic moments, calm leadership can change everything. His legacy is more than numbers or medals. It's the memory of a man who gave everything, led by example, and never looked for recognition. In every sense of the word, he was a warrior. And through the lives he touched and the lessons he left behind, his story will always endure,